on drugs, guys. And the introduction in part one, about last week I did the stream. Um, it's basically it's a total lie, guys, and our government hates us. It's based in racism. The CIA, United States, will flood the streets to destroy working class neighborhoods, especially people of color, black people. Extremely racist, guys. It's drugs are more available and better priced than ever before. All the funds made, they trade guns, money, arms with right-wing goons all across the world, guys. To sorry, my cat is fucking attacking me by my monitor. um, but they will trade with all the drug dealers, guys, guns, drugs, money, to destroy left-wing movements, revolutionary movements, all around the world. To anybody that cuts into corporate profit, they will destroy them. And the war on drugs is part of that. So part two, guys, what I'm gonna do, I've been reading the Drug Wars trading cards. I read, I think, 5 or 6 of them the first stream, guys. Really cool artwork, and each one has a story about people that have trafficked drugs and to certain landmarks in history, guys. But let's begin. Lucky Luciano. This is number 6 in the deck. This is titled Operation Underworld. So get a good look at that. It's got a good story. Let's read. During Prohibition, Jewish gangsters like Meyer Lansky and Arnold the Brain Rothstein controlled the heroin trade, while Italian and Irish mobsters concentrated on bootlegging. But in 1931, with the end of Prohibition in sight, the Italian mafia, led by Salvatore C. Luciana, aka Lucky Luciano, forged an alliance with Lansky and moved into the heroin business. Next paragraph. In 1936, Luciano was convicted of forced prostitution. Excuse me. His incarceration in the U.S. combined with Benito Mussolini's crackdown on the Sicilian mafia was a major blow to the syndicate's heroin operations, but World War II gave the mafia a new lease on life. It's concerned with German sabotage on New York's waterfront. The U.S. Navy, through Lansky, convinced Luciano to enlist his gang in protecting East Coast docks. Luciano also arranged for Sicily's mafia to help the Allied invasion of Sicily in 1943. As a result of these successful operations, and perhaps aided by $250,000 in contributions Lansky had given to New York Governor Thomas Dewey's election campaigns, Luciano was released by Dewey and deported to Italy in 1946. How about that? Last paragraph. In 1947, intent on rebuilding their heroin empire, Luciano and Lansky met in Havana with the U.S. leaders of organized crime. Lansky was entrusted with managing the syndicate's finances and negotiating with suppliers. Florida mafioso Santos Trafficante Sr. was designated to run local heroin operations. Cuba became the major transit point for Luciano's heroin shipments, at first obtained by diverting Italy's illegally produced pharmaceutical heroin. Italian authorities soon disrupted this source, but by then there were new suppliers, Corsican gangs led by the Guarini brothers who ran heroin labs in Marseille. And we'll get to the Marseille in a second. So that was Lucky Luciano. So guys, if you just Google, let's see, Santos Trafficante Sr., Florida mafioso, one of the first things you get is this like CIA document, guys. It came out in 1984. Let's see if I can zoom in there. I just really like. So look at this, and it talks about it. Actually, the Cuban drug connection goes back to Prohibition and the rise of Charles Lucky Luciano, one of the most brilliant organized crime execs of the century. In the early 30s, he restructured the old mafia into 24 family cartels. Luciano also brokered an entente cordiale between the mafia and Jewish mobs of Meyer Lansky, who became Luciano's lieutenant and later the financial genius of the U.S. underworld. And scroll down. Check it out. Here it is. Under dictator Fulgencio, Batista in the 30s, Cuba became the principal entry point of Luciano's heroin network. Lanksy controlled the Cuban traffic as well as most of Havana's gambling casinos, but his base of operations was Florida. There he became friendly with Sicilian-born Santo Trafficante Sr., who had earned his rep as an effective organizer in the Champa gambling rackets. Lanksy came to trust Trafficante and in 1940 put him in charge of his interests in Havana. By early in the next decade, Trafficante had carved out an empire of his own, and he set up his son Santo Jr. with the Havana rackets. So, I read that article, guys, because this is from the CIA themselves, guys. Just so you guys know, I'm just not reading. Oh, what are you just reading trading cards for? What are your sources? You know, this is stupid. These cards are great, dude. Just a simple Google of all these names will back everything up I'm reading from, okay? So, read that article, and guys, Batista, the Cuban president, was 100% backed by the United States, the capitalists. He was a butcher, and this is one of the reasons, guys. Drugs, gambling, racketeering, prostitution. Batista didn't give a damn about his people. That's why Fidel Castro's a real one. He overthrew Batista and the government and became prez. And, you know, literacy rate went up. Infantile rate, is that how you say it? That became better. Everything became better, guys. Diseases went down. So, yeah, if you're like, Castro's a dictator, nah, dude. Look at Batista. Go look at, like, the way of life before and after and come talk to me. So, anyways, card number 7. 2 for today's this stream. Hey, look, my cats are on stream. Where are they? Check them out. Got Marge here. We got Cookie over there. They say hello. Alright, guys, check it out. We've got a Marseille dock strikes titled The French Connection. Let's read. Having found the Sicilian mafia useful during World War II, the U.S. government again turned to organized crime in its post-war battle against European communists. In November 1947, wildcat strikes erupted all over France, and in Marseille, the vital port city, which was a stronghold of French communists, 80,000 striking workers paralyzed the city. The newly formed CIA sent agents and a psychological warfare team there to meet with Corsican underworld leaders such as Antoine and Barthélemy Guerini. The CIA supplied money and arms to the Guerini brothers for assaults on picket lines and union leaders, finally breaking the strike a month later. In 1950, another strike was similarly defeated, leaving control of Marseille's docks to Corsican gangsters. Within a year, Marseille's heroin labs, run by the Guerinis and others, were in full operation. By 1965, America's heroin addict population, largely supplied by these labs, had grown from 10,000 to 150,000. At first, most of the opium supply for the Marseille labs came from Turkey, but as time passed, Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle became the main source. France had a colonial outpost there from the 1890s until 1954, where it was replaced by the U.S. as the colonial power in the region. During the First Indochina War, 1946 and 1954, French intelligence, working closely with Corsican narcotic syndicates, took over the opium traffic to finance their operation. French CIA is dirty too, y'all. After the French left, the Corsicans remained, and until 1965, these syndicates, led by Bonaventure Roch Francisci, who had ties with the Guerinis, and his airline Airlaus Commercial, Air Opium, provided drug transport to markets in Bangkok and Saigon. Alright guys, so what I've been telling y'all since the start of this war on drugs is a lie series. The CIA is in bed with the drug traffickers. They have to stop communism from spreading because communism, guys, I'm not a communist. I know communism cuts into corporate profits. You cannot get rich in communism. CIA has to kill and beat, torture those people. And one way to do that, you trade drugs, guns, arms with the drug traffickers to destroy communist, left-wing revolutionary movements. And that's what I'm trying to prove to y'all today in this series. So, that was the Marseille Dock Strikes. All right. So, card number 8, My Lovable Fascist. We're going to Japan for this one, y'all. Going to Japan. Number 8 is tiled Willoughby and the Yakuza. Begin. Less well known than the CIA collusion with Corsican gangsters in France is the U.S. military's use of Yakuza gangs in Japan. The Japanese equivalent of the Italian mafia, Yakuza syndicates have controlled the rackets of Japan since the early 1900s. Long allied with the ultra-nationalist right, Yakuza thugs provided the muscle which suppressed the left and kept fascists in power until World War II. After the war, Japan was occupied by the Allies under Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers, General Douglas MacArthur. In 1946, MacArthur's G2 intelligence chief, Major General Charles Willoughby, began paying Yakuza criminals to break communist-led strikes and infiltrate labor unions. Born Adolf Winderbach in Germany and called My Lovable Fascist by MacArthur himself, Willoughby recruited Japan's former chief of military intelligence, Lieutenant General Saizo Arisue, to help run his covert operations, quote unquote, and succeeded in freeing many Class 8 war criminals. One of these men, Yoshio Kodama, served as a liaison between G2 and Yakuza gangs and later worked for the CIA for 25 years. What the Corsians became to the heroin trade, the Yakuza became to the Asian amphetamine market, a monopoly they still hold. Amphetamine, speed, have been popular in Japan since World War II, when the most well-known military users amphetamines were kamikaze pilots. Today, Yakuza have allied with Chinese triads in Hong Kong and Taiwan in global sales of heroin and speed. Together, they now market a smokable amphetamine called ice. Common in Hawaii, but still rare on the U.S. mainland, ice is cheaper and more potent than crack cocaine and could become the next drug epidemic. This was written in 1991, y'all. But isn't that crazy, man? So we're in Japan now. We're in bed with these ultra right-wing, ultra nationalist nuts, dude. So let me bring up a article. So again, if you guys are new here and you're like, dude, you're just reading the back of trading cards. You don't know what you're talking about. The U.S. would never do that. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. So guys, if you just Google Yoshio Kodama, fucking like every article you pull up, y'all, war criminal, corrupt, ultra right, far right, nationalist, fucking crazy shit, y'all. And I like this one from the New York Times back in 1984, y'all. Check it out. A shadowy ultra-rightist and one of Japan's backstage power brokers until his trial as a central figure in the multi-million-dollar Lockheed bribery scandal of 1976 died yesterday in a stroke. He was 72 years old. So, I just want to scroll to the juicy bits, y'all. Mr. Kodama, it was learned, had been the corporation's secret agent. The corporation... Oh, okay, let me go back. His name became known to the Japanese public only in early 1976 when the international sales activities of the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation were under scrutiny in the U.S. Senate. That month, secret payments to promote the sale of Lockheed planes to Japan were the subject of headlines in both the United States and Japan. Mr. Kodama, it was learned, had been the corporation's secret agent in Tokyo for about 15 years. He was accused of taking more than $7 million from Lockheed in exchange for using an influence to help sales. Guys, The U.S. CIA is in bed with ultra-right people all across the world. Yoshio Kodama is one of them. This is one of many articles. Check it out. All right, so that was the next card. I got 2 more cards to read to y'all today. We are about 15 minutes into the stream. So let's see. Aha. Card number 9 is called Chairman of the Board. Check out that artwork right there. Card number 9 is called Meyer Lansky. We're in the criminals, man, big time criminals. The father of white-collar crime, Meyer Lansky was the mob's financial wizard. Born Meyer Suchow Jelansky in 1902 in Poland, Lansky came to the U.S. at age 9 and by 1921 was refitting stolen cars and bootlegging liquor. He soon entered the heroin business. In 1931, Lansky became partners with Lucky Luciano and Daring. Luciano's incarceration from 1936 to 46, he oversaw syndicate operations. After gaining Luciano's release, Lansky reorganized the World War II interrupted heroin business and set up a chain of banks in southern Florida, the Caribbean, and Switzerland to launder drug profits. Lansky's investment associates in these banks included CIA agents, other drug lords, billionaire eccentrics, and Republican Party bigwigs. The syndicate's base of operations was in Cuba. Lansky had used the Caribbean as a smuggling base since the 1920s when he cut deals with Bahamian and Cuban officials to ship bootleg rum to the U.S. After 1933, he and Cuban strongman Fulgencio Batista were partners in several Havana hotels and casinos. When Fidel Castro overthrew Batista and kicked out the syndicate, Lansky oversaw the mob's resettlement in the gambling and resort paradises of Las Vegas and the Bahamas. Luciano died in 1962 and Lansky assigned as Havana Lieutenant Santos Trafficante Jr., we just talked about him, to run the heroin business. In 1965, Lansky sent his Swiss banker courier John Pullman to Hong Kong, setting the stage for Traficante's 1968 meetings in Hong Kong and Saigon with Chinese heroin suppliers. New heroin sources created by the U.S. war in Laos had made it unnecessary to deal with Corsican middlemen. The future disruption of the French connection was already in the works. So there's a little bit about Meyer Lansky, guys. That's card number 9. Chairman of the board. Bam. Some bad dudes, guys. Alright, one more card to read for y'all today. Card number 10 is called The Great Heroin Coup. Sweep. Check it out. Great Heroin Coup. On the back, whoops, it's called Trafficante, Nixon, and Guarini. Here we go. When Richard Nixon became president in 1969, the heroin trade was dominated by the Corsican mob, which had been led by the Guarini brothers until factionalism put the Francesi Venturi gang in power. The New World division of this empire was headed by Auguste Record, a former Gestapo collaborator who operated from Paraguay. But before Nixon left office, the Corsians had been supplanted by the Sicilian Mafia. This coup was achieved through Nixon's selective war on drugs, by working to extradite Record from Paraguay, by securing Turkey's commitment to halt opium cultivation, and by encouraging France's crackdown on the Francesi Venturi gang. Nixon helped destroy the Corsians while leaving the Sicilian network intact. Southeast Asia replaced Turkey as the main source of heroin, and Santos Trafficante Jr. unseated Record as the Western Hemisphere's top drug lord. From his Teamster Hall headquarters in Tampa, Florida, Trafficante's influence spread widely. In the Lansky-generated banks of southern Florida, his fortunes were laundered alongside Kumutang KMT, drug money from Southeast Asia, and CIA funds for secret wars against Castro, the Torrijos government in Panama, and the Nicaraguan Sandinistas. Trafficante even had connections in the White House. When Watergate burst, it was learned that 4 of Nixon's plumbers had worked for mob-controlled casinos in Batista's Cuba. Nixon's drug war also employed CIA-trained Bay of Pigs veterans linked to Trafficante's drug operations. With heroin supplied by Hong Kong's KMT-linked syndicates and with friends in high places, Trafficante had by 1973 built the most powerful narcotics organization in the world. Damn. Just when you think the United States can't get any worse, they get worse, y'all. That's the most powerful, like, heroin dealers, guys. CIA, president, even senators. The United States government is in bed with these people, man. Isn't that effed up, man? Just to crush their, whatchamacallit, to crush their opposition. So, there you go. That's part 2 of The War on Drugs is a Lie. I will continue the series. In this deck of cards, guys, we've got 36 more to go. 36 more cards. So, oh, I'm sorry, 36 in total. But we've made it through 10. So, yeah.